Welcome, beautiful souls, to another episode of the Sacred Roots podcast. I'm really excited because today I have the beautiful guest Zoe with me. You're going to hear her charming English accent, very different from mine, but kind of close to where I come from. And we are going to talk about astrology and high frequency living. So, two very, very interesting topics that I'm sure you are going to love. So, I actually really like it when people introduce themselves. So, can you say in 30 seconds who you are and what you do?
Hi, so my name's Zoe. I'm based in the UK and I am an empathic light worker, and my mission is to support empathic light workers to step into their light and sustain their frequency and elevate their energy. It's probably a bit longer than 30 seconds.
Let's say it was 28 seconds. I don't know. I didn't use how do you call this thing that counts the seconds?
A timer or a stopwatch?
A timer, very simple. In French, we say un chronomètre, and the word just wasn't coming through. So, Zoe, tell us a bit about your story. What led you to really stepping into that role? Because I guess it must have been a whole journey of first recognizing that you were an empath and then trying to journey with that, and then feeling empowered enough to want to guide others on the journey of being an empathic light worker.
I love that. Thank you, Elle. So, and I love these questions. I always find them fascinating. I love hearing other people's stories.
Yeah.
So, growing up in the 70s in the UK, as if any of your followers are listening who are from the UK, they probably would have known that empaths, anything like that was not really talked about at all. And in my family and in the environment that I grew up in, we certainly didn't talk about that. We didn't really know about that. We never heard about those terms. But looking back, and hindsight's such a beautiful, powerful thing. I was such an empath, onboarding everything, just soaking up everybody's kind of struggles and pain, and just not really understanding or having the discernment to know what was my stuff, what was someone else's. So this resulted very much in, people pleasing, people fixing behaviors, keeping myself small, keeping myself well under the radar. And it just went on. Into teenage years, and I had struggles, I feel, that were very much to do with that. But also looking back, I had these experiences that I remember so clearly. I mean, I told you I have a French lineage, and we used to spend all our summers at my granddad's house. And I used to see this kind of, these people, what I believe are beings, what I believe are my light family, that was sitting on the end of the bed and sort of talking away in this language that I couldn't understand. And I remember it so clearly. I used to share a bed with my sister, and I used to get so frustrated because they woke me up and I couldn't get to sleep because of that. And I learned to shut that down. I only had it there. I used to get so activated there. Only had those experiences there, and since then haven't had that connection, which is such a shame for me. I also remember being able to fly. I remember flying, and I had these connections of colors and numbers, and it was all the chakras. So there were definitely glimpses into my obviously my very open psyche and spirituality right from a young age, which I progressively learned to shut down, unfortunately.
And how was that received by your family, actually? Because I feel what I have observed is that very often, when for some reason, quite often those empathic people like you and I, we choose families that are not empathic, that are not as sensitive or as open to spirituality. And it really brings me back to the idea of the story of the Ugly Duckling, where we are different than others. We have another color, we move in a different way, we see things, and then we just feel that we don't fit in. And so we turn all that down. But it's actually, we are actually swans. we're actually just from another essence, and we need to find the swans to come together. Like you and I, we just recognize each other, we find each other, right?
That's it. I love that. I love that analogy. And thinking about it, I was open with my friends, because I've had conversations with my friends that, they used to say you were out of your body, and I don't remember having those, but my friends do, because it was out there. It was just so offbeat. Never spoke to my mother and father about it. My father was a real atheist, and you just didn't go there with him. My mother had a lot of emotional turmoil and was quite a troubled person, bless her. So we just never had those sort of soul opening conversations at all until she later in life, when she became a Buddhist. So I was very much alone with that, but I didn't recognize that within myself, because maybe as a child you don't, I don't think you question, or maybe I just didn't. I just accepted, but at the same time shut it down, because it just didn't serve me. I found it more of a hindrance, and like I said, I like to keep myself very small.
Yeah.
Growing up. So I guess, and it's interesting you say that the children, maybe the kind of indigo children, of my generation, we were kind of the trailblazers, weren't we?
Yeah.
But we did have to have families that were shut down, because we had to fight and push, and like the pupae, with the chrysalis, and having to push out to get that growth with the wings. Absolutely. And the butterfly. That's how I saw it. It was a real struggle, but it had to be a struggle to get me back to that remembrance and that reclamation of those gifts that I so obviously had. And we all have, don't we?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I also feel that, we choose these families because the differences that we have with them is what allows us to see and recognize the difference. Because if you're born in a family where everyone's a psychic, everyone's connected to the stars and to the earth, then you're just like, oh, well, yeah, I'm like everyone. And, you don't see your difference. But when you're different, you see the difference, and then you can choose. Usually we push it down because our ego wants to fit in at first and we want to be loved, but then that part of ourselves is still gonna want to come out at some point. And so when we become adults, we can reclaim it, and then usually we use it in our work because it's really deep down who we are. So I feel that at the same time, it definitely comes with struggles. I have my fair share of ones too, but I think it's also a blessing to be born in those families, because that's how we can see ourselves and then choose to bring all those parts of ourselves in the light at some point in our lifetime.
I mean, interesting enough, my sister's hugely spiritual as well, and we've had quite a similar following as adults. I've done a lot of the similar training that she has done. So I have someone I can be really woo-woo with within the family now. I mean, now it's not so much a problem because I know who I am and I'm really stepping into that. But we had these conversations not long ago, actually. She said that she felt she has a real clairsentient. So she felt as a child presence in her room, and she said she used to put all her teddy bears around the bed to kind of protect her. But yeah, I know, it's so sweet, but we never, we haven't had this conversation until kind of much later, and when we're so far down our awakening. But it's interesting, so it's very similar kind of experiences, without knowing it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so Zoe, I wanted to ask you, because one of the things that you really specialize in is really working with the stars, working with astrology, working with the wisdom that we can find just there on the top of our heads. What brought you to astrology and using astrology in your life as a guide, as a North Star?
Love that. Yeah. So I would say more cosmology than astrology. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For me, I resonate more with that, just simply because I guess there's more going on that kind of draws me in. And what I mean by that is, the retrogrades, the cyclical retrogrades, and the solstices, those power periods, equinoxes, and solar flare activity, eclipses, all of those things, meteor showers. And I'm obsessed with it. And I just love to know how it impacts on us. I mean, I dip into astrology in terms of the lunar cycles and, the moon constantly moving through, the various constellation signs of the zodiac and how that impacts on us. And it's funny, I was asked this exact same question earlier today, and I don't have an answer for that. I don't know at what point it just seemed to grab me. And I don't remember at what point that happened. But it was definitely very much part of my awakening process and path. I feel that it was probably a little bit to do with the modality that I trained in. We spoke about this yesterday, the transference healing modality that I trained in, and then went on to do the mystery school trainings, because the lady, the founder, the channeler of that energy is still alive, which is really unusual. And she's kind of created this whole modality. So maybe that was a way in for me. I mean, it incorporates so much, but there's definitely a cosmological part to it that got me interested. So, and it weaves into the way that I support my clients and work with my members and my community.
So tell us, what is happening right now on a cosmological level, and how is that impacting us on an individual and collective level?
So I love that question. So I guess the overarching happening is that we're very much stepping into the Aquarian age. And this is probably, as you know, 1,000+ year cycle. We were in the Piscean age up until, I believe it was about 2 years ago, but there's never a precise date, is there? That we're talking about 1,000+ years. So to embody that, we're stepping into it, and it's probably going to take a good 10-20 years for us to really embody these energies and feel that within our template, within our blueprint. And what I feel is happening is, and it's so, when we look back, I don't know whether you've experienced this, Elle, and I'm sure you have. The last few years have just been ridiculous in terms of so much going on, and do you have that impression of time speeding up? And it's not because I'm getting older, it's because it's the energy. Even my children who are in their teens are saying, gosh, this day's gone so quickly, this month's just spun by. I remember as a child, summer holidays just stretching forever. Time just feels so different, because I believe that there's such an intensity of energy, and I feel that's to do with primarily this stepping into this new age. And obviously we're shifting into this fifth dimension from the third dimension, and it's this opening of consciousness so that we can be more 5D in the way we look at things. But in order to do that, we need the shaking up, and the shaking up and the catalyst comes from, this is how I experience this, all of, the eclipses, and we know we have those, but the meteor showers, the retrogrades, there's so much solar flare stuff going on, and each and every one of these activations impacts on us differently as an individual and as humanity as a whole. And whether we're conscious of this or not, we are still feeling these ripple effects. And probably, as I'm sure you're thinking, it must be so difficult if you don't have that consciousness around, you must be thinking like you're losing the plot. I mean, I find it difficult, and I feel that I work on myself every day. I have inner practices, I have my goddess practices, and I have this wisdom, but it's still damn difficult some days, to come back to center and still. And you know, obviously it gives us opportunities, doesn't it, to hold our light and hold space, and it gives us the growth and the rapidity of the growth. But it is challenging. It's definitely challenging.
I want to talk about how you manage those challenging times and how you bring yourself back to your center. But before we talk really about that high frequency living, I want to hear more about what it really means for you, this Aquarian time and this transition that we are in. I have my own definition, and some other people have their own definition. Like, what does that mean really for us on an individual and collective level?
So Aquarian energy for me, and how I feel it and experience it, is this kind of this need to come together. I'm seeing this more and more, and I feel that people that have a lot of Aquarian energy within them, and these are the people.
I'm an Aquarius rising.
Oh, are you? So you are out there, and it's funny. It's so funny. I really resonate with Aquarians because I find them very quirky and very unique, and individual. And these are the people. These are the souls that you talk about looking out the box, seeing out the box. That for me, they don't have a box. They're just so out there. I have my youngest son is double Aquarian, so he's Chiron in Aquarius plus his birth sign is in Aquarius. So oh my God, he's so out there, and he knows himself. And this is what I love about them, because my Chiron is in Aries, so I really struggle with the sense of self. It's like, who am I? I'm getting better at it because I do a lot of work, but that's why I really resonate with these Aquarians, because I think the flip side to it is that we're really pushed with this Aquarius energy to kind of rise above, and it's an air sign, so we're really floaty, we're out there, we're really getting ourselves out there, we're feeling our own uniqueness. But the flip side, and this is the struggle the polarity that I see in my son, is that he's so individual, but he finds it difficult to bring it into a group, because he's just not a team player. And this is how I see that polarity with this sign, with the properties of the Aquarian energy. So globally, and I guess individually, it's that unity consciousness, isn't it? It's coming together. It's having a humanitarian feel to everything you do, which is just beautiful. And just coming together and in a collective and unifying, but also being individual in a group. And I think that's a mastery in itself. I think a lot of us struggle with that. I know I do.
I think it's very interesting how indeed Aquarius, it's really a sign of individuality. You want to be different, you recognize your uniqueness and you express it, but it's also a sign of community. And I feel that from what I am observing of people around me and my friends and my community here in BC, is that people want to come together and build communities. And I see communities popping up everywhere, but everyone is recognized for their uniqueness and their genius within the community. And then we can all use our genius to serve others and use other people's geniuses to help us. And I absolutely adore that, because I feel that it's an invitation for all of us to step into our sovereignty while being all together and supporting each other, which is so beautiful. And so it's exciting for the future, but because our society is not built like that at all, well, we are in a bit of a chaotic phase right now.
And it is healing. It is true. It's healing to come together and just work on that sense of self and that sense of uniqueness and honor that. And I feel that once we get to that point, it is mastery within ourselves. We're stepping, like you say, into our sovereignty and our power. And I feel that's how it's going to come. And how beautiful is that? If we all adopt and embrace that unity consciousness and that more humanitarian aspect, think how different the world would be.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it's really something unique that we are stepping into as well. That we're creating a new earth, but it's also connected to how we were living in ancient times, but it's going to be done differently.
Definitely, yeah.
So as we are in this transition and chaotic, period where it's just, intense news after intense news, it's like, when is it going to stop? How do you cope with that? How do you bring yourself back to your center? I know you're very passionate about high frequency living. So tell us about that.
Wow, it's something that's become more and more evident for me, and I kind of come at it from different angles, and I feel that by doing these things that it's all weaving together. But one thing that I am passionate about is protecting my light and my energy. And because I worked so damn hard to get it to a place of a higher frequency, obviously it's not realistic to be, always like, yay, in a really good state. That's not how we grow. We need those times of dark nights of the soul and introspection and, welcoming those parts of ourselves we like to keep hidden and acceptance around that. But I protect my energy like a precious commodity. That's how I see it. I nourish it, I feed it, and I protect it. So, I do things like the obvious, like I don't, watch any films that I know will lower my frequency. I don't read books anymore. I listen to uplifting, higher vibrational podcasts. I eat cleanly as much as possible. And obviously I like my chocolate and whatnot, but it's all of those little things that I do. It was funny. I was talking about this with my sister. I call it vibrational eating. So I don't put myself in a box, but I eat. If I want chocolate, I'll have chocolate because I feel it's good for me, at that particular time. But, I'm very careful about what I consume, things like that. And obviously news, I haven't listened to the news for years now. I rely on my husband to kind of give me the main points.
So he's the one that has to dive in the mud.
So he sacrifices himself, but even he likes that. But it's just all of those things because I'm so sensitive to it. But obviously we need to know how to live in this way. You can't sort of bubble yourself up and wrap yourself up. No. But I just honor myself and protect myself as much as I can while still going on about my daily business. So it's just that kind of embodiment and what's worked out for me. But other things that I do are, I have a kind of a non-negotiable. It sounds really, I try and be gentle with it, but I have this inner practice that I do every day because I've realized over time that it's what I do every day that's so much more impactful than once or twice a week or whatever. So, I do journaling. I think, I dip into my higher version self. I connect into my core beliefs, look at those, see how that might be limiting and, and then I kind of reframe those for myself when I feel them rising in me.
So can you share with us like a morning ritual that you would advise people if they are like, I also want to increase my vibration and protect my energy and feel happier? What would be like a 15-20 minute morning ritual that you would advise people?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of find a space where I am alone and I'm not going to be disturbed. So I think that's really important, to set your intent to not be disturbed. I don't check my messages or anything like that when I wake up, which I used to do. So already I'm in that kind of zone. As soon as the boys are sorted out and the dogs, I just go and take myself away. And it's mainly journaling for me. The thing is with this is that you have to do what resonates. Really feel that you have to do what resonates with you, but I'm just going to share with you what I do. So I journal, I have a beautiful fountain pen and a beautiful book, and it's very honoring, and I just sit and I flow with it, but I do certain things within that. So I always start with my higher vision, and obviously my soul work is my business. So I get all my content and my messaging every day. I post every day what I've tuned into. I tune into the collective, into the energy. So it all weaves into one. It's like personal, but it's also, it's an extension of us, isn't it? Our soul work is what we give out, and we share and we inspire others through that. So, through that journaling comes my messaging and my content. So I know it's pure. I've not been influenced by anyone else. And it serves me as well, because I'm connecting into the energies. I'm sort of writing out what I feel. So it's like I'm getting real clarity over what's going on. I also have a big monthly calendar with all the cosmological dates. So I check to see what's going on. And then I'm like, oh yeah, of course, that's why I'm feeling like that. So that helps me as well in my messaging and how I'm feeling. I also like to look at my higher version and vision for my business and for me personally. Where's it going? And I like to take and make decisions from that space, because I feel like it raises my frequency when I do that. Like my highest version of me, what does she look like? What does she feel? What would she say? What would she do in this situation? And by tapping into her, I'm coming at it from a higher frequency space. So I know that whatever decisions I make and what I say is of a higher frequency already. Yep. So those are the sort of things that I do. And then obviously over the lunar cycle with the full and new moon, I like to do a bit of intentional work, not goal setting, because it sounds masculine. There's nothing wrong with that. But do you know what I mean? I like to be more in the feminine with that when I start that. So I just think about, I get clarity over what's not working or what's not resonating with me anymore, and then just writing down my intents for the new lunar cycle, because I really follow that. And then over the full moon, sometimes we light a fire outside, we write down our, whatever we need, we have a reflection period, and then I write down what needs to go, things like that. And I'm very loose with that. I've never been one for like putting myself into a box. I kind of flow with it, but I do feel you need the divine masculine to have a container within that, because I think we would just be floating around, wouldn't we, all day if we didn't have any sort of structure with it.
Yeah, we need a bit of structure. And so you said that one of the things that you do when you look at your, when you do your journaling and you prepare yourself for your day, is to look at the calendar to see what is happening on a cosmological level, so that you can get ready for that. So you have that wisdom and you have that expertise, but our listeners don't. So if they want to connect with that energy, what could you say is cosmologically going to happen in the next trimester, in the next 3 months, July, August, and September? Do you know?
Okay, well, I don't know off heart, but we've had a few retrogrades, haven't we? We're just in the Neptune, actually. That's going to be quite a big influencer. I know month by month, really. I don't go ahead of that. But the big, obviously I always look at the solstices and the equinoxes. I always know when they're coming up, and there's a lot of energy around that. We've just been through the solstice, summer solstice here in the northern hemisphere. So I really like to harness that energy. And it's a bit of a death rebirth period, isn't it? It's really intense. So those things I always know in advance. But I kind of get information from all around. So I don't know.
How do you get ready for the equinox, for example? Because this podcast is probably going to come out in August. And so how can we help our audience get ready for the fall, autumn equinox?
Yeah, so for me, that's like the real shedding time. It's really about gaining clarity over what's not serving you. So, you could use the full moon periods and new moon periods if you want to amplify that energy and sit still in those times, get clarity over really what it is that's not serving you. You can maybe do some soul questing, ask potent questions, to really get clear on those limiting core beliefs. I believe we have one or two that we can you know, really boil it down to. And, you know, just keep journaling on that, get really clear on that. And then when it comes to the equinox, you know, you can sort of do a fire ceremony, for example. You know, you could light a fire outside or light a candle inside. You could write down, you know, what it is you want to let go of, because it is that shedding time. You know, look at the seasonal cycles, the leaves are falling. So, you know, with that, we're shedding what no longer serves. So, you know, and I find that very symbolic and quite purifying to actually write down what it is I want to let go of and put that in the fire. Of that, I really, it's for me, I work a lot with intent and visualization, and, you know, and with these energies, that's how I harness and align to them. Another powerful thing you can do, just for me, one of the biggest cosmic influences is the moon, for sure. And she's so regularly cyclical, you know, frequently cyclical. You know, it's about 28 days, and you've got these power periods within that. And very simply, by doing things like setting your intent to align, opening your curtains, you know, you're always impacted by that lunar frequency. But for me, the energy of intent is so powerful. Oh, yeah. You know, you could put your crystals out to charge. It's just all of these little things. Do some moon bathing, make some moon water, you know, just all of these things will already get you attuned to these frequencies and you know, these pockets of heightened energy, like at the equinoxes, like at the solstices.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And so for anyone that is listening to us and that is thinking, oh, well, I wanna also live more in tune with the cosmology and the high frequency living, where would you invite them to start?
So just generally, yeah, I would definitely think about a daily inner practice, you know, just tune in what feels right for you. For me, doing this daily has been the biggest game changer. It's been such a pivotal turning point for me. But you do what resonates for you. And I'm sure with, you know, you obviously talk about these practices a lot, and kind of, I'm sure you talk about different things that you can do. I would also look at protecting your own energy as well. Obviously, if you are an empath or a highly sensitive person, have some sort of energy management practice, just protect your energy. Make sure that, at the end of, if you've had some sort of occurrence or event or struggle, or just cleanse your energy as well in the ways that feel right and natural for you. And
what is your favorite way to protect your energy?
I do a lot of white lighting. I mean, through the transference healing, I've been taught to channel energy in a particular way. But, we can all do that. It's just, again, it's remembrance, isn't it? It's reclamation of those ancient practices. And if you're listening to this, and you're obviously in a part of Elle's beautiful community, then you will have had past lives doing these sorts of things already. So my two favorites are white lighting. So I just visualize, really high frequency, pure white light coming up the body like a flame in a way. And, as soon as I start thinking about it, I can feel the energy and the heat coming through my hands, and I run it. We do, don't we? And we run it up. And the other one is the Saint Germain violet flame. That's not particular to transference healing. It's an ancient, powerfully protective procedure. And I would use that when I have deep fear coming up, and when I feel vulnerable and I feel challenged, exposed. And again, it's that deep purple kind of amethyst flame that I will see underneath me and bringing it up the body. And I would take about 2-3 minutes to do that. Another thing I could talk about is the elemental, the gargoyle. I work a lot with gargoyle when I feel vulnerable, particularly as a woman. When I'm walking with dogs, I like to go to remote areas, and I do feel vulnerable sometimes. So I visualize the elemental, the gargoyle, with its wings wrapped around me, and that completely shifts the energy for me. Just one more point to all of this, because this is the biggest block that I've had to kind of move through, and I see that in my members in my community, is that we get in our own way. And
Mhm.
you know, I work with people that are transference healers and they still experience that. It's like, is the energy really running? You know, am I powerful enough to connect to this energy? The more we think it, the more, it's not that we disconnect from it, but we're not connecting. We're not connecting to what's already in us. And it's that faith and that trust that we have it already in us. It's just about connecting back into it, isn't it? And so the more you can be just soul-led, you know, heartfelt with it, the more powerful it becomes. And it is a practice for sure,
Yeah,
but just don't
I
get in
love
your own
that.
way. That's my advice. Do not, you know,
Yeah.
because we're powerful. We are all powerful. And I
I
just
love
love
that.
this advice.
I always tell my clients,
Mm,
especially when you're beginning with these practices and you start working with the energy and the white light and the purple ray and all of that. I love to tell my clients, it's not because you don't feel it that nothing's happening. You don't see it, that's already a start.
yes.
Most people don't see it, but then it's about feeling. It's not because you don't feel it that nothing's happening.
Mm,
And I remember on my own journey, so I trained as an energy healer for 3 years. And sometimes I was still doubting myself after 3 years, even though I had certified and everyone told me I was really powerful at healing. And it was really at the beginning of my practice when I started giving treatments. And this guy came to me and he told me, I have a really big ball in my belly. I was like, oh yeah, that's your solar plexus. And he says, yeah, I have a lot of tension there and it's painful. And it's because this and this and this is happening in my life. And so I told him to lay down and I did my usual thing. And it was so powerful that his belly started vibrating.
oh
There were
God.
like waves and movements, and
Mm,
it was completely, he couldn't control it. And at the end, he
mm.
was like, oh wow, you're a powerful healer. And somehow being able to see
Ah,
physically that it was impacting this charming man helped me see that yes, I did have that power to
mm.
heal. And I'm just sharing that story because it's crazy how much our egos always need proof
Oh, it's so
of everything,
limiting. Yeah, we're
and how
told.
indeed it is limiting. And so
Mm,
if we can just trust that we
mm,
are energy beings and that with the power of intention, we
mm,
are impacting each other and we can support each
mm,
other. And then the more we practice, the more our sensitivity is going to increase. And like you said, just mentioning it, you can feel your hands warming up
mm,
and you can feel it because you've been working with it for a while and you have that
mm.
sensitivity. So at first it's trusting, practicing, and then suddenly you're going to start feeling it, potentially even seeing.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I suppose we're taught to you know that seeing is believing. You know that
Yeah,
it has to be tangible, it has to be measured and quantified, and
it's
it
so
just
limiting.
isn't. You can't do that sort of thing.
No.
And we sometimes know. Sometimes it is to do with our need for external validation, isn't it? And like you say, it's that confidence. It's that, you know, just being soul led, being creative with it as well. I'm very creative with the way I run energy now. You know, I kind of do my own thing. I'm just, you know, I use the transference healing, obviously, but sometimes I just like to go my own way with it as well.
Follow
And
your
it's
intuition, of
beautiful.
course.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Amazing.
That's
So Zoe, let us know if anyone wants to work with you and learn from you and get into your lunar circles and live with a high frequency. Where can they find you and how can they work with you?
the best place, Elle, is on Instagram. So LunarLightworker with an R. I always have to say this because I recently discovered that there's a big sex site, which is
Oh,
Lunar Lightworker without the R. So I always specify
oh.
with the R because that's not me. Um, so maybe that's a way for people to remember. But yeah, so Lunar Lightworker, and then within that, you know, it's all centralized information. So I've got linked to my Lunar Lightworker membership. The doors are currently closed, but there's a wait list. I'll open again at the solstice in December. I'm starting up my one-to-one coaching and Earth Alchemy group coaching from next week. But again, you can find links in that. And within the membership, this is where we really honor ourselves and witness ourselves as empathic light workers. And I do lots of sacred teachings and healings, and we follow the lunar cycles. And it's a really beautiful high frequency space with amazing women and a few men that are stepping on board as well. So yeah, if you're resonating with any of that, then I'd love to see you somewhere, someplace.
Well, you're going to be sending me all those links, and I'm going to put them in the show notes of this episode. Do you want to finish with a word of wisdom or something that you want to share with your audience? Maybe something that has helped you on your path and that you want to share with others?
It's just, I suppose, just knowing ourselves and dive, having that willingness to go deep and just acceptance, I think, has been a big thing for me. Acceptance of who I am totally, and loving all of those parts of ourselves, even the ones that we like to keep hidden, and just trusting that you have this wisdom within you. It's just a question of reconnecting to it, and if you feel the need to, and you have a resonance with someone, obviously like with Elle, being willing to invest that time, that effort, and the finances sometimes, to do that. Sometimes we do need to honor ourselves, and we do sometimes need help, don't we, to find our true north path, and that's fine. It's honoring that within us, and just keep taking those soul-led steps.
Amazing. Let's keep following our soul and accept ourselves. Thank you so much, Zoe, for sharing all your wisdom and expertise with us today. It was so much fun, and I know my audience will have loved it. So all of you, follow Zoe on social media and get on her waitlist for her membership. See you very soon, Zoe.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.